Hey Adam, how are you, man? Great to see you.
Good day. Thanks for having me.
All right, awesome, man. So I've been giving the group like a little background on your story. I think you have an amazing kind of entrepreneurial venture. You've had several startups over the years. Your last startup was a really nice exit by VC. It was VC funded, and then about like 6 or 7 years ago, you came up with this idea for PrizePicks. Maybe you tell us a bit about the PrizePicks business, a bit about your entrepreneurial journey in terms of starting this, because I know it's been kind of quite a wild ride since the beginning, and just
For
would
sure.
love to hear it.
Yeah, so I actually I got into the fantasy sports space back in 2014. I've been a technology entrepreneur for over 15 years now. I actually had co-founded two different ventures at the time, just kind of hedging my bets. Uh, and then it just so happened that the fantasy venture kind of took off. And PrizePicks actually wasn't our first product. It was actually our third product. So it evolved from the first two. And and PrizePicks specifically got going in the fall of 2017. So we're now about a little over 3 years in, and we've been rocking and rolling much of our time with PrizePicks, but then obviously, like you said, the pandemic definitely threw a wrench in our plans, and we had to quickly pivot and make a lot of abrupt changes. But now we're back on our feet, and not only that, but we're thriving, and we're very fortunate to have had now 6 straight record-setting months, and February is about to be number 7.
That's awesome, man. So you had pretty much an entrepreneur your whole life then. You've had several startups already. How old are you now, Adam? You're like your mid 30s or so. I'm trying to
Just
keep
turned
track here.
36.
All
Just
right.
turned.
That's awesome, man. And I know you're on the board of directors for the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. So you're super connected in the industry. You've won a lot of awards. I was noticing here you got Rookie of the Year in the Fantasy Sports Trade Association. You're a finalist for Up and Coming Entrepreneur of the Year, top 40 digital strategist. So you're a well-recognized entrepreneur. You're an investor in the space. You've had multiple startups. Tell us a bit about how you decided to get started in this business. I remember when I first met you, you said it was a passion of yours, maybe all the way dating back to your high school years or even before that. Maybe what was the inspiration to get this business started?
Yeah, all of my ventures have been me scratching my own itch. I'm no rocket scientist, but I feel like I have a good sense of consumer psychology, and I know that if I could build a product that I would use, there's more people like me that would love kind of simplified products that are just easy to use and easy to get in and get out, just like PrizePicks.
That's great, man. So right at the moment, you guys have been scaling quite a bit. You're adding not only the sports, I guess the sports leagues that you guys are in at the moment. I know that was a big part of the pandemic was the sports leagues were shut down, so you had to diversify a bit. Maybe tell us a bit about the leagues that you support and some of the diversification that you guys did.
Yeah, so we have the widest breadth of sports league coverage of any fantasy sports operator. So we were very fortunate that we had been pre-pandemic. We had our first professional league partnership was actually with an esports league, and we got some great experience out of that. And then very conveniently, when the pandemic struck and we didn't have the traditional sports leagues to fall back on, esports became a focal point. And because of that experience, all of a sudden we're able to offer esports 365 days a year, and it's the only market that we can do that. So esports, and not only that, but we also figured out that we really do have a leg up not only on fantasy operators but also on all the betting operators with esports, and it's a competitive advantage, and it's a strategic opportunity for us. Obviously, esports has been a hot topic in the venture capital community for a number of years now. We think it's only going to get bigger with time. But fortunately, a number of the biggest leagues in the world, started to come back one by one, towards the end of Q2 and into Q3, and NBA and the NFL are kind of bread and butter, and definitely the bulk of our revenue through most of the year.
How does it work in the esports category? So it's basically through gaming is the idea. So you guys are placing bets on
Yes.
video games.
So the two that we currently offer this second are League of Legends and Counter-Strike. In the coming weeks and months, we're about to roll out 3 more ones formally. Call of Duty is something that we have tested out before, but we're about to do a formal launch for that. And we're also about to release Valorant and Rocket League. And we're gonna be having gone the deepest amongst any operator in the space, and like I said before, we think it's a big competitive advantage.
Did your association with the esports league, having been on the board of directors, did that make a big difference for you in terms of getting access, in terms of getting into this space? Did that help you a bit? Because I know you've got quite a track record in the category.
Yeah, I think those are a bit unrelated. The way the original esports deal came together, it never hurts to be building your network, and that one actually was rooted in some contacts that I had made actually with my previous venture. So they were also up the road from Atlanta in Alpharetta, Georgia, this gaming studio, and it was a great partnership, mutually beneficial, and set us up for what we're doing now in esports, and then the being on the board of directors for the Fantasy Sports and and Gaming Association, it's a great opportunity to kind of give back to the industry, and we're pro business first, so definitely all of these entrepreneurs who are looking to jump in, I'm always kind of happy to be a sounding board and try to help as many as I can.
Cool, man. And I noticed also you've been a mentor in the Techstars Sports Accelerators. You've participated in a couple accelerators, either as a mentor and even as a company yourself. I know you guys were out in LA for a little bit. This was like maybe 5 years ago or so. Yeah,
I spent I've traveled a lot, during my entrepreneurial career, but I literally, living-wise, spent the first 30 years of my life in the state of Georgia. And it was the Dodgers Accelerator program in 2015 that kind of plucked me out, and I really liked the concept of being situated in a brand new location for 3 to 4 months, and what's great about that, beyond just a week or two trip, is you get to really immerse yourself in the local scene. You start to know your way around. I think more than anything, you really build some friendships that can last a lifetime. And so, knowing that I appreciated that, on a personal level, while also, being able to, kill 2 birds with 1 stone and, move the business forward. The following fall, we actually did another program in Las Vegas this time. So I have a different appreciation for Las Vegas than most people would. And then when I, post that program, came back to Atlanta and decided that, I'd been taking chips off the table as my old company was getting close to a liquidity event, and said I kind of wanted to take a page out of Dave Williams' playbook and bounce back and forth between Atlanta and New York.
Nice.
So I did that for a couple of years, and was all set to move back to New York last March. And then, never really got a chance to. So now I find myself in Barbados.
All right. Well, it's quite a story of adaptation and adoption. You just keep adjusting the business based on the environment, kind of never say die. And then this latest tweak in the business model a few years ago has proven to be like super successful. We were speaking earlier. I think you guys have raised around a few $1 million this year in a few different rounds. You're also just qualified for some debt financing, some sort of unique debt financing. We're not at liberty to say who the company is you're working with, but it was actually as the result of the trip. So as I mentioned before, Adam's the CEO, co-founder at PrizePicks. For all of you all out there that are gonna be watching this, check out PrizePicks.com. They're basically a fantasy sports startup, the closest thing you're gonna get to sports betting. Adam started this business, I guess about 7 years ago, but did a big pivot back about several years ago. The business has been like super successful. They've had 6 straight quarters of revenue growth, user growth. some really great metrics. It's a really amazing business. But I wanted to get into was this big issue we ran into with the pandemic. You guys had to lay some people off. Then you kind of jumped back into it, got some financing in, and then all of a sudden you're in Barbados. Tell us about that. It's a lot happening within a couple of months, some big swings there.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, we were 18 full-time and about 30 part-time. And, we were dependent. We were not going down the VC path. We were largely dependent on our revenue and profits. And we were also, actively spending on marketing. And then we were prepping for a VC round, though, at the end of Q1. And we never got a chance to really, go down that path. And literally the week of the pandemic really striking in the States was the same week that I was feeling bad for my friends in travel and hospitality. And little did I know that my world was about to get rocked, in 72 hours. So we got hit super hard. We literally, had to get very creative just to kind of stretch out, our capital in the bank account, because we were definitely in a pickle. So we got, we came down to the core. We very quickly, defined what were our must-have expenses, our should-have, and our nice-to-have expenses, and literally just hit the reset button and built back up from the ground up in terms of our expenses. And what we identified was there was a core group of 4 of us that we had to have. And then we told the other people that we wanted to be ready when sports returned, to just hang around. And what we did was we basically leveraged our equity and basically granted a number of those people some very nice stock options issuances, even when we couldn't pay them, and obviously we didn't know if there was going to be PPE or PPP or something or anything like that. And then we went on to raise $1 million in Q2 at a very discounted number off of what we were supposed to have done in Q1. We stopped raising on that number, and then raised on a new convertible note with a higher cap in Q3. Raised over $500,000 there to just kind of fuel our marketing heading into football season. And then in Q4 we raised low 7 figures, just mainly to convert the convertible notes, but also to pad the bank account further. And then best of all, as you alluded to, we topped it off with this. We found a debt partner. It's one of the biggest debt financiers in the world, and we are their first. We're about to announce it formally, but we are their first gaming partner. And this is a group that we can basically grow with, in the coming months and years, because our paybacks are extremely quick. We break even on our customer acquisitions within the first 2 to 3 months, and they just look for a 6% payback in over 6 months. So it's a win for them. It's a win for us. We don't have to give up expensive equity, as well as control of the business, just for the sake of growing the business.
Okay, cool, man. Well, I guess this trip to the Barbados was kind of inspired by the NBA bubble in Orlando. And what's it been like in Barbados? So tell us a little bit about the experience. Which members of your team did you guys have down there? What was like the work schedule like? Did you guys do some fun stuff while you were there? Was there some good bonding that happened? Just we'd like to get kind of the inside scoop on what it was like down in Barbados from like July until the end of the year through to the holidays.
Sure. So how it all came together was specifically, I was watching what the NBA was doing. I said, this league is as innovative and on top of things as you're going to find. And obviously, it was the bubble, concept was going well for them. And right around the same time that they kicked that off and they were heading into that, Barbados had gotten some great publicity for this Welcome Stamp program that they had done, where they were allowing, digital nomads to come in, get a visa for 12 months, a work visa. And you just had to come in with a job that was, over $50,000 salary. And so as I was laying the groundwork for this crazy idea at the time, fortunately I had a former roommate from New York who was from Barbados, who I could kind of bounce some ideas off of and kind of get to know the lay of the land a little bit, which is always very convenient, when you're traveling to a foreign location. And so I figured that I ended up deciding that I would put it in front of the team that we had, around the business at the time. And sure enough, going into it, I knew that my co-founder was interested, and I also knew that some of our earliest employees, it could make sense for them. And as we put it out to everybody at the time, and sure enough, it ended up being some of our core team that were the ones that latched on. And by the time early October rolled around, we basically came down. I think it was 5 of us to start. We ended up cycling in, another 1 or 2 more in Q4, and many of these were department heads. And what was great about it is we were brainstorming about PrizePicks over breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that is something that's incredibly difficult to do in the middle of a pandemic when everybody's working remotely. So the fact that we got that much FaceTime in and it was a huge benefit to the business, and I think there's a reason why we've been on a string of these 6 straight record-setting months, and that was a large catalyst to having everybody under one roof. And so we basically rented a villa. The way we worked it out is I didn't know what the optics were going to be from all of our shareholders and the like. So even we had some internal dissent for a little while. People thought we were at first being a little just not responsible when it came to costs. And I said, look, all along the plan was for the business to contribute a stipend towards essentially what we would deem our office, our temporary headquarters. So we actually did it so that, especially because it wasn't the full team, we basically, the company contributed a little less than what would normally be our rent in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And then, we got this villa where we could spread out. And I asked everybody to contribute. A number of these people either, at the time didn't have leases or just had the flexibility to pull this off. So everybody was paying me the rent as the landlord, including the company. But we just basically subsidized it and made it affordable for everybody through the company stipend. That was obviously a key component. And then, Barbados had created this bubble-like environment. So it was great. It was almost as if the pandemic was not in existence for quite a while. I mean, we would, have masks when we went in, cabs and entered restaurants and the like. But and they did and they did contact tracing. So, they were always serious about it. There's a reason that they kept, the virus out for quite a while. And, the team was here for, 75 days. We even had some significant others come down. And we were able to just make sure everybody was being able to work in optimal conditions. And, I think that leads to peak performance, which is one of our core values.
That's great, man. So everyone seemed to agree with the idea and everyone was supportive of it, even to the point where they're willing to actually contribute a bit. How did you guys take care of meals? Did you eat out all the time? Were you guys cooking at the corporate HQ, or how were you guys taking care of just the day-to-day stuff?
What was great is, we got a hell of a deal on what was typically a short-term rental that they had been transitioning a number of these villas and properties to mid-term rentals. And so typically, these villas, had full-time chefs and maids. So as part of our incredible deal, where I think we were getting it at like a quarter of the normal costs, it came with a chef and maid 3 times a week.
Wow.
So we basically were able to feed everybody and keep additional costs down as a result of that for 5 days a week, and we typically have leftovers many of those days. It was great. But then, we would go out as a group, and it was great to have like a big group of us down there. And, we quickly immersed ourselves, in the social scene. And not only did we have a good time on a personal side, but there was also business networking to be done because there were other entrepreneurs and digital nomads, running around, as well as a handful of other companies that had done similar things to us in terms of camping out and bringing some of their key folks down.
That's awesome, man. So you guys got a chance. How many digital nomads do you think were down there? Do you have any idea of the numbers, or was it all centralized in one area, or people spread out across the island, or what were you guys seeing?
I read that. So we actually, ironically, didn't do the work stamp, because of cost reasons, didn't go down that path. But it was obviously that news that sparked the trip in the first place. And we weren't alone. There were a handful of others that kind of were inspired by it, but didn't actually do the work stamp. But yeah, I mean, I think I read somewhere that upwards of 2,000 people had actually done the work stamp. Were running around the island, all these expats. But it was great because whether it was Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, you could kind of if you were on your own, you kind of network and socialize through those. And then specifically, I think it was definitely advantageous for us that I had that one connection down on the island, and we quickly immersed ourselves within kind of his network. And it was very easy to kind of ease our way in. And there were a handful of other expats that had other connections that ended up in the same group as us.
Cool, man. I think you had mentioned there were people there from the U.S., Canada, Europe, that's where most of the companies were from, or what was kind of the mix? Or was it more U.S. companies?
Yeah, I mean, Barbados is very popular with Canadians and the Brits. So it was mainly, those two being represented down here. There were a handful of Americans that we would meet from time to time, but not all that many. I think, in the States, they don't really advertise Barbados. I think we all know it because of Rihanna, but I don't know if you know it because of many other reasons. They always advertise the Bahamas and, maybe even Turks and Caicos on the higher end. But, Barbados is a great mix of all the above. They've got, 5-star, restaurants, 5-star hotels. They've got, these Michelin star restaurants. And obviously there's so much to do, so many activities that you can kind of immerse yourself in as well.
Cool. Well, for you guys that are joining us a little bit late in the conversation, we're talking to Adam Wexler, CEO and founder at PrizePicks. Adam was taking advantage of remote work in Barbados. He moved his whole executive team from Atlanta down to the Barbados through the pandemic. They experienced some ups and downs, but coming out of this, they're on a record 6-month winning streak, all-time revenue growth, all-time user growth. So it's a really, really exciting story. I was based in Atlanta for quite some time. I know Adam from back in the day. He's got quite a reputation, one of the kind of top emerging entrepreneurs, but now he's got, a few exits under his belt. So he's matured a lot over the years, and this business is doing extremely well. I'm super excited to have you on the show here, Adam, because I've been watching your progress. I even put a little investment in. I should have put more of an investment. My wife, I don't do much on the fantasy sports. I don't think I really understood your business model very well, but I just know you're an amazing entrepreneur. So I'm excited to see that you guys are doing so well. And for those guys that are joining us, my understanding is, Adam, if you go to prizepicks.com, it's very simple. You can pick your favorite sports players, anywhere from 2 to 5 players, if that's right. You do an over under on each one of them. And then you've got a couple different selections. I saw there's a flex play or a power play. And then your outcomes will vary depending on, I guess, how you're playing the game. Is that right? It sounds very, very simple, but I guess there's quite a bit to it on the back end in terms of all the, all the over and unders and kind of setting the spreads and everything. I'm sure that's got to be tricky.
We describe it as daily fantasy simplified, and that's exactly what it is. We try to get you in and out of the app in less than 60 seconds. I should mention that we're in both app stores. That's how most people use it, and there's about 7 different game varieties within the app, and it's, as you mentioned, all over or under predictions of these lines that we set. How are these different star athletes going to perform? And as you also mentioned earlier, it's the closest legal alternative to mobile sports betting for the great majority of the United States. We're also in Canada. And another thing that came out of being in Barbados is there's a good chance that we're going to open up Barbados and maybe some other islands.
Right. That's fantastic, Adam. Yeah, it's super exciting. There's a big sweep across the U.S. where they're legalizing this form of gambling in a lot of the states, if I'm correct. And so now it's up to 27 states. We expect it to continue to expand in the U.S. And like Adam was saying, even into the Barbados. For them. They got some funding recently, a really good round, and they have some notable investors. I don't know all the names, but we have some big VCs, some big angels, but then also I saw here you have the founders from Poker Central, which is big for you guys because they have a lot of confidence in the game that you guys have created and the results that you guys are producing. And then I saw what Andrew Bogut from he was the former number one draft pick. So we've got some celebrities in the group beyond just myself, although I don't consider myself a celebrity at that level, but I'm hoping just to get a chance to meet these guys someday. It's like owning a vineyard or something. I gotta get over and try out the product a bit more. But yeah, I think for the group here, we try to keep these about 20, 30 minutes. I think we've probably gone over here a bit, but I wanted to share your story with the group. I mean, mostly because I think it's an amazing entrepreneurial story. I think it's also awesome because you guys have made some really great adjustments with the pandemic. You turned lemons into lemonade, which I'm saying I'm always having. That's the CEO's job, right? You take a bad situation and turn it into a good one, which is what you've consistently been doing throughout your career, which makes you a successful CEO. I always say it's easy to win in the good times, but it's the CEOs that can turn around the bad times. You know, those are the important wins that you get under your belt and make for a very, very successful entrepreneur. So it's been amazing having you on the show, Adam. We're super excited for everything you guys are up to. I guess before we leave you today, is there anything you'd like to leave with the community, maybe a special offer, or for anyone that wants to give this a shot after listening to this interview? How do they get started? And maybe just give us a bit of a pitch here, get everyone excited about it.
Sure. I mean, as related to PrizePicks, anybody that signs up gets an 100% instant deposit match up to $100, to play the game. So basically, you put down 100, you get 200 total in your account right away. And you can find it in both app stores, like I mentioned. And then, and yeah, I mean, as far as the digital nomad community goes, I definitely think, this remote work thing has been greatly accelerated, as I'm sure you know, Dave. And I think you were a bit ahead of your time pre-pandemic, but now I think you're right on time with having been immersed in this space for a good while. And I still believe I think every company is a little different. In our case, I think there's value to having certain departments collaborate on a daily basis. So we are looking forward to getting back into a collaborative setting, into an office setting. But even pre-pandemic, we were doing basically 4 hours a week, 4 hours a day in the office. 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. was our office hours typically, so 20 hours a week. We're probably going to go back to something similar, maybe even shave a day off, maybe middle of the week, something. But yeah, I mean, I think every company's a little different. Some can be all remote, but we've always been a bit of a hybrid. And obviously, having been that hybrid with certain departments that need to be, side by side, I had to figure out exactly how to pull that off in the middle of a pandemic. And that's where Barbados was a great friend of ours.
That's great, man. I'm sure you made some great connections with your team members, like in a way maybe you couldn't have connected at the office or back at home when everyone had their distractions. I always found all my breakthroughs really happened when I left home and went to someplace new, and I could just be super focused and just really orient myself around the business. I think, it's almost like going to law school or going to medical school. You just got to kind of dive into it and put the blinders on for a bit. And you definitely done a great job, Adam. Really excited about what you're working on with the business. And I think this is going to be really huge. So for all of you all out there, keep an eye on PrizePicks. It's a hot startup. I don't even call it a startup anymore, but a hot startup, very, very fast growth, really cool category with a great CEO, a great team. And thank you so much, Adam. Really enjoyed having you on the show. And enjoy the rest of your time in Barbados. Hopefully we'll see you maybe sometime in Portugal or on Madeira Island once things open up. And to say hi to the team. And just thank you so much, man. Awesome interview.
Thanks for having me.
All right, sure. Take care, man.